Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the 11 most dangerous prisons in the world. I reacted to a video yesterday about the 11, no, was it 10 or 8? The 8 most luxury prisons or the 10 most luxury prisons. And it was pretty mental to see how people who've committed such terrible crimes are living in conditions that like people who aren't in prison, people who've never gone to prison, don't even get to like have those conditions, and they've never committed like crimes or like terrible like murder or all this kind of stuff in their life, yet they were given better conditions than people who work, do all this stuff and still live in worse conditions. It baffled me, I'm not gonna lie, but I wonder, because it's weird, like there's no like, I guess Scandinavia as a country as a whole where they seem to have better conditions for prisoners, but there's still bad prisons in those countries. So I don't know if they're trying to test out with luxury prisons or prisons that are just a lot nicer to see if like see how the inmates are when they come out of the prison, if they actually like are less likely to re-offend or whatever. But I don't know, maybe it's just some prisons are just a lot more luxury than others. But this is the most dangerous prisons, which is again the other end of the spectrum. And I mean, with the luxury ones, I'm thinking this shouldn't be like this, they shouldn't be having this luxury. But then on the other end, maybe we're going to see conditions that I'm like, they shouldn't have to go through this either. But if you're a murderer, if you're a paedophile, all this kind of stuff, you're probably deserving the worst of the worst happen to you. But we're going to see in this video, hopefully going to enjoy, and I mean enjoy as much as you can. And yeah, let's just check this out.
Hey guys, it's Chris. From legendary prisons to prisons right now that are some of the worst places to be in, and more. Join me as I reveal 11 of the most dangerous prisons in the world.
11 is quite a weird selection of numbers, I'm not gonna lie. This intro is loud, fuck me.
Number 11, pandemic prisons. You might think that prisons during the current pandemic situation are some of the safest places in the world. Because
this is true actually. Remember when the COVID outbreak happened, and like prisons were one of the worst spots for it, weren't they? Because everyone's so close together, and you're not going to get as much medical attention as other places, are you?
Closed systems, so thus there aren't many ways to go and spread around the virus that's crippling the world. But you'd be very wrong on that front, because right now every prison in the world is a dangerous prison because of the pandemic. Think about it for a second. In prison, there's no such thing as social distancing, and that's mainly because there are 2 people per cell, and those cells are very small. What's more, soap and protective equipment to keep them safe while close is virtually non-existent, because prisons won't pay for that and won't treat the prisoners fairly. They have been so bad during the pandemic that they've literally been called petri dishes, and the spread of the virus through the prisons is honestly rather shocking. Now, some in the government have tried to put a spin on this, but the numbers don't lie. Many thousands of prisoners have gotten sick within the prisons, and hundreds have died. Some prisoners have even rioted and exposed contraband in order to help tell people their stories and get the word out about their prisons, basically killing them. Plus, a prison isn't a closed system. There are guards and staff that come through all the time. Plus, new prisoners are brought in and other prisoners are cycled out. So thus, I guess they can bring it in themselves, and then it's just going to spread like wildfire in the prison. And then the guards themselves will then catch it from the inmates, and then they'll bring it to the family. Yeah, I can see how that's just an absolute recipe for disaster. It continues to spread throughout the prison system, making anyone in there right now vulnerable to getting sick. Number 10.
This is also, this video is in 2020 as well, so it's right when it was at its hottest.
Did not want to get locked up.
Alcatraz, I know this one.
Too. If you were sent to the Rock, you weren't going to be getting off of it. The prison was legendary for housing some of the biggest names in criminal history, including Al Capone at one time. But the real reason it was dangerous...
It is, but the US love island prisons, don't they? They absolutely love an island prison.
Its location. It was an island prison off of San Francisco, and as a result, if you were to escape your cell, you'd somehow have to go and swim your way all the way to shore. And the waters of the bay had tides that could easily drown you or sweep you out to sea if you weren't careful.
I can't even swim, so I'm
As a result, many inmates died trying to flee Alcatraz. And officially, no one ever survived an escape attempt or made a full-on successful escape. The only reason that Alcatraz is shut down now is that the prison slowly started to degrade, making it unsafe and unhealthy to remain there. But for a time, it was the prison that everyone feared going to, and its legacy lives on to this day. Number 9, San Quentin Prison. San Quentin Prison was established in 1852 and is the oldest prison in the state of California.
Is it still going?
It predates Alcatraz and has lasted a lot longer than it. And so keep that in mind when you think about dangerous and significant prisons. There are various reasons that this prison was and is dangerous. First and foremost, for a long time, it would carry out executions of prisoners in a variety of ways, including having its own gas chamber. This
Oh
isn't
my
something that
days,
is
what?
used nowadays, thankfully, but it was used at one time. Like many other prisons, they use lethal injections to execute prisoners, but they haven't done that since 2006. So why is it still dangerous today? That would be because of the conditions and the violence. Due to its age, the prison isn't exactly a perfect model of efficiency and safety. So much violence is regularly known to happen here. In one case in 2006, a racially motivated incident happened that resulted in over 100 inmates getting hurt and 2 people dying in the fights. In
Jeez.
2005, reports stated that it's dangerous to house people there. The danger can further be proven via the museum that is a part of the prison that
A museum in a prison? Wait, what?
shows that various items and weapons from over the years that the inmates have made to try and kill each other. This
They've got a museum to show that. That's crazy.
includes spears, guns,
Any way to make money, right?
made of plumbing parts, and more. Do you know anyone who has served time in prison? Have you yourself maybe ever been incarcerated? Was it dangerous? Did you witness any fights or riots? Or was it mostly orderly? Let me know
What
how
a
you
random
feel about
question.
prisons in general in the comments below. And then be sure to subscribe for more impressive
random
videos like this
question.
one. You don't want to miss them. Number 8. Bangkwang Prison. If you were to ask for the nickname of Bangkwang Prison, you would be told it's the Bangkok Hilton. This would obviously lead you to believe that the place was a relatively nice prison with fair
The
accommodations.
Bangkok... Wait, the Hilton's a hotel, isn't it? The Bangkok Hilton. What?
Fair treatment of its inmates, but you would be very wrong in that regard. The prison is known for the routine torture of its inmates.
So is this actually legit? Because this was in the thumbnail and I was thinking, surely this isn't real. No way this is legit. If that is insane.
Inmates are crammed into small cells, and death row
Fuck
inmates are
that,
often given
man.
as little as 2 hours' notice before they're dragged off to their execution. But that's not all.
Holy
All
shit.
prisoners are required to wear long irons for the first 3 months of their sentences.
3
Death row
months?
inmates were required to have their leg irons permanently welded on, although this practice ended in 2013, thankfully. When you add all of that up,
Not
you
that
get a
long ago,
prison
though.
that no one in their right minds would want to go to. Because if you do, you might not get back out. In fact, one UK prisoner served 17 years there before being pardoned by the king. When he did, he described his
Let's get a phone call.
experience as hell. Most prisons wouldn't get that moniker, but Bangkwang Prison clearly does. Number 7, Rikers Island.
I know this
Easily
one.
of the most famous
Yeah,
prisons in
another
the world
island
that is
one,
still
yeah.
in use today, Rikers Island Prison is located off New York and between the Bronx.
Which one
and
was... I guess this is number 7, so I guess this one is worse than the other one. But why is the other one was like... is now not in use because of it just degrading and stuff. But I guess was this just always seen as the worst prison? I guess they're both bad, it's hard to compare, but...
The legacy that this prison has gotten led to it being
How dangerous
referenced
it
or
is, sorry.
used as a plot point in various TV shows and movies based in New York. That being said, its legacy is not for the faint of heart. Why? Because its history and legacy are marked with excessive violence. But not just violence between inmates, but the violence that the guards would inflict on inmates as well. This obviously would cause retaliation to happen, and the cycle continues. In May of
I hate this
2013,
background
Rikers
music so
Island
much.
ranked as
It's
one of the 10 worst
driving me
correctional
crazy.
facilities in the United States, based on reporting in Mother Jones magazine. The violence that would happen there was legendary in the worst way possible, not the least of which was because it would be done with approval at times from the local police and the New York State
This
government.
picture's mad.
Of course, this type of mistreatment is obviously a human rights violation, and eventually there were strict rules put in place to try and limit the violence against both inmates and staff. And there was some success in getting stabbing incidents to go from about 1,000 a year down to 70.
a
However,
big
the
drop.
violence in the facility is still going strong. Thus, prisoners honestly
Huge
try and
drop.
do a lot to not go to Rikers, because they know they won't have a chance of survival
Wait, 1,000 a year means there's like nearly 3 stabbings a day. God damn it.
there in most cases. Number 6, ADX-FLORENCE SUPERMAX Facility. There are certain facilities in the world that are designed to hold the worst criminals that humanity has to offer, and one of them is the ADX-FLORENCE SUPERMAX facility in Colorado.
Another
While
one
that
in
may
the
sound
US.
like a good idea given that sometimes there are prisoners who need to be under constant surveillance, there are limits to what one should do there. For example, ADX-FLORENCE SUPERMAX facility apparently keeps many of its inmates in solitary confinement, which
That's
is usually
the
reserved
worst,
for
bro. Solitary confinement is like one of those things that genuinely makes you feel sick. Like, imagine just being locked away from anything all day, like just all day, every day. Like, I can't imagine what that would do to you, man. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. That
For
would be,
those who have
oh
done
my
something
days.
wrong in the prison,
The
or those
worst.
who are requesting safety from other inmates. But that's not all. A lawsuit was filed in June of 2012 by several inmates. The lawsuit charges that the conditions of the prison create an environment for inmate abuse and torture. What's more, the inmates stated that their mental health was not properly addressed, and as a result, many inmates committed suicide. Now, this is obviously terrible news. Prisons are already bad enough without the fear of getting beaten, tortured, and left to die. The court case did get into settlement proceedings, but that doesn't change all that happened there. Of course, the inmates in this prison are some of the worst people in the world, so it's unsurprising that they receive little sympathy and terrible treatment. The whole situation is just a little distressing. Number 5, SANTE Prison. Located in France, SANTE Prison is another prison that's infamous for its treatment of prisoners. It has held some of the most famous criminals in French history, including infamous pseudo-celebrities who receive visitors and live in a special section of the compound. Today, however, for all of its inmates, it remains a dark and depressing place. But this time, there's a twist, because not only is the place so dangerous and so violent that prisoners often take their lives rather than risk living out their sentence, but prisoners are only let out 4 hours during the day. Plus, there is apparently a hierarchy in the prison, unlike what you'd see in various
there's always hierarchies in prison, no?
TV shows and movies. To that extent, those who have power are able to lord it over others, while those who don't have power aren't able to do much at all, and live in the worst conditions possible. It's a true dystopian situation, with powerful and vicious leaders who can do as they please to the weaker inmates. As for attempts to escape, many have been made, but only 3 have ever been successful. The best way to escape this miserable prison is to not get sentenced there in the first place. Number 4, Diyarbakir Prison. When you have a prison that's been dubbed inhumane by pundits, you know you're doing something wrong. This is the case with the famous and disturbing prison in Turkey, where inmates have their spirits broken and people experience violence every day. One of the dark spots of the prison's past for which it has been known is incarcerating children for lifelong sentences.
What? Wait, they incarcerate children? What the fuck? What rules do they have there? What?
For lifelong sentences.
Holy what crimes are they committing?
Horrifying no matter who you are. That a child would serve a life sentence for something that was likely very small is terrible. And a life sentence...
I'm sure that there's only crimes like murder and stuff that's leading to that, right? Which is a whole other matter. If it's stuff like stealing and stuff, that is... No, there's no chance a kid's getting a life sentence for stealing a bagel from the flipping... What are they called? From the bakery. I forgot what bakeries are called.
Like this,
no chance in hell.
Being very short, what with the disgusting and inhumane conditions of the prison. Furthermore, those who run the prison are corrupt. They're known to beat down prisoners for virtually any reason. This is so extreme that in one case, both police and guards beat down inmates, killing 10 and injuring 23.
What?
Over the years, dozens of inmates have died from being tortured, committing suicide, or going on hunger strikes. The European Court of Human Rights has condemned this place,
this music is
and it will likely
insane,
remain a disturbing reminder of how cruel humans can be to one another for decades. Definitely, this is not a place you want to end up.
Yeah, no,
Number
thank
3,
you.
La
Still
Sabaneta
3 more
prison.
as well. God
La
damn.
Sabaneta prison was one that perfectly showed the problems with various prisons in the world. Mainly, they were holding way too many prisoners to be run effectively. In this case, La Sabaneta prison was supposed to hold only 15,000 prisoners, and yet it held 25,000.
That's always how it is, man. Prisons always have this capacity, and it's never actually at the capacity. I swear, it always just like double or whatever.
Joe was 1 guard for every 150 prisoners.
What
that was
the hell?
Not a way to keep things safe. Located in Venezuela, this prison had drug traffickers, gangsters, and murderers in its walls. These people were more than willing to commit horrific acts of violence, and with so few guards, there was very little guarantee that any order could be maintained there. And obviously,
sounds like a prison that would be in that Netflix series of the world's worst prisons. This is the sort of stuff, like there's like barely any guards. The prisoners are pretty much the people who guard and like run the prison. Yeah, flipping heck, man.
Chaos ruled in this place. The prison was littered with violence from top to bottom, and it could get pretty intense. A violent gun battle in 1994 resulted in the death of 108 prisoners. Additionally, 196 prisoners were killed and 624 wounded because of jail violence in 1995. The prison is now closed and remains a museum showing the horrors that occurred there. Number 2.
What is it with prisons and museums? What the hell? Are they like successful museums as well? I guess there's quite a lot of interest in those places, so... Yeah, that's wild, man.
TADMOR prison.
Museums and
Located in
prisons.
Syria, TADMOR prison was
Okay,
infamous
the location itself with the prison, I'm expecting this to be brutal as
for
hell.
various reasons, not the least
And
of
the
which is its
position in the
treatment
list.
of its prisoners. Amnesty International has stated that every aspect of it was designed to dehumanize its inhabitants, which obviously is not the point that prisoners are meant to serve. There have been various incidents there that have caused many complaints on the world stage, and ironically it was shut down in 2001. But just as ironically, it was opened up again in 2011, and it didn't change much in terms of its brutality towards prisoners. It was finally blown up by extremist members of the terrorist group ISIS in 2015.
ISIS has done something kind of good. I'm joking, but if ISIS is the ones blowing up, then you know they're doing something wrong.
Number 1. Carandiru Penitentiary. Located in Brazil, Carandiru Penitentiary was known to be the most violent and brutal prison that resided in the world for decades. To give you just a small taste of what happened here, there was a massacre within the prison in 1990.
We're starting off with a massacre straight away, okay.
It was so bad that 102 prisoners were killed, and numerous military police were themselves sentenced to prison for their actions during the massacre. But that's not all. The health issues were just as bad there, as various prisoners were diagnosed with HIV due to their lack of treatment or improper.
You don't want to drop the soap there, because then you are in danger. God damn.
A book and movie were made describing the horrific conditions of this place from the perspective of a doctor who was trying to treat the inmates for their diseases over a number of years. This prison was destroyed in 2002, but a small prison...
Let me guess, it's going to be a museum. He said it's destroyed actually, so probably
Prison
not.
block remains open to the public as a museum.
Oh my god, what is it with museums? I knew he was going to say that, but God.
This prison was destroyed in 2002, but a small prison block remains open to the public as a museum.
God
Thanks for
damn,
watching.
man.
Which of these prisons...
A prison museum? I never knew that was a thing, but I guess it's quite common. Maybe I've just not really known about them, and I should, but yeah. I've only been in jail once, but no matter where you're locked up, it's not a fun place to be. Just make good decisions, guys. Yep. It's a very good point. Make good decisions. Don't put yourself in that situation. I'm never going to prison, man. No chance am I doing that. I want to just be free and do whatever, man. God, I can't imagine. You're just stuck in the same place. Probably, I mean, I guess for months, or if you've done something crazy for years, or for the rest of your life. Oh my days. Fuck that. I could not even imagine. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction, and if you got more of this stuff, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll react to that prison, like the most dangerous prison thing on Patreon. That could be a thing I could watch if people would be interested in that. I've still got loads of episodes to watch, so I could do that if you'd be interested in me watching it. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and then until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.